Just checking. I want to welcome everyone to King James Bible University. I was sent an email, and basically what went on was people was asking about this everlasting covenant that many people will be going to church on this coming Sunday for this Sunday school teaching, which I always tell people, watch for Sunday school teachers and their teachings and how they teach. And they don't use precepts, but they will actually try to say these are precepts, which are not. And I'm going to be showing you that because I'm going to be going through their Sunday school lesson and showing you pieces on what they're using. And currently I'm going through the Bible Expositor and Illuminator. That's the one that was sent to me, to where they wanted me to make my comments or show basically what the Bible is actually saying. And we're going to go through that. But as I always tell you, always watch. Not, when you go through the scriptures itself, don't take my word for it. You always want to check my word as well as anybody else's word, as any other pastor's word, as any other evangelist, bishop, whoever is giving you the word. You always check to make sure, because we are man and we can make mistakes. Some make honest mistakes, but some making mistakes purposely to err you from the Bible. This is what they like to do. And we have to show you that. And mainly what I always tell you, many people like to go through the Bible and pull you away from the book, and they want to run you to commentaries. And they want to, they'll tell you that they have these people, your MacArthur's and your McHenry's. They have all these different Wyclifs and different things. And they giving you their thought on what the Bible is saying, and they giving you theology. That's why it tells you the same thing. The Big Bang Theory is giving you the same thing. They're giving you what they think that this writer was saying, not what the writer was actually saying. They're giving you their interpretation of what he was saying, and they was not there. That's why this is so dangerous. This is why he gave you a strict way to do it. And we're going to hit some of those to show you why he said to do it a certain way. But then when you look at many books, you can go to almost any book. You can take a book, we can say Harry Potter, what people love to go to, which is another demonized book. But just say that, for example, they'll take that book, they can take it from the beginning and read it to the end and have an understanding of exactly what that book is saying. You can take many other books, take many other magazines. You can take that book, you take it from the beginning, you can run it all the way to the end and understand that book. The Bible is not written in that format. He tells you because the writer is not there and is not open for this private interpretation, as Peter tells you. So he tells you instructions on how to understand the scriptures. And he did that in a very simple way. We're going to look at this, and then we're going to jump right into this hair rise on how they're doing this Sunday school for this everlasting covenant, to show people who do these Sundays, to show you how they actually leading you to error. So let's go over to Isaiah. And we're going to look at Isaiah first, and we're going to go to 28. We're going to look at 28. And we're going to park at 9. And we're going to start right at 9. So we're going to go through this, and then we're going to hit a couple of other areas. We have one other area really to go to just get the understanding exactly what it's saying. Because we want to understand, when you go through the Bible, it gives you instructions on how to follow it and how to understand it. When you go get a math book or a history book, or you want to read a book on how to design, it gives you instructions on how to follow it. The Bible has the same thing, the instructions on how to follow it. And many times he had put pastors and preachers who teaching truth, they give you the same directions on how to follow the book. But where you can run into hairy pieces to where you don't understand, that's where they will come in and can give you clarification. How? Based on precepts in the Bible. So they're not going to give you their opinion, because our opinion, your opinion doesn't matter. The only opinion that matters is God's opinion, because his opinion is the final authority of all things. So we're going to look at Isaiah 28. We're going to start at 9. And it says, who shall he teach knowledge? And you see it's a question mark. So whom shall he teach knowledge? And whom shall he make understand doctrine? Still a question mark. So whom shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he teach doctrine? And doctrine is teachings. And giving you an understanding of his word on what you are to follow. It says, them that are weaned from the milk, from the most simplest parts of the commandments of God, and them that are drawn from the breast. This is what he's saying. But you will find that many of these preachers and teachers and prophets that they so-called, and many of these people that is out there call themselves teaching the word, is really just on the lesser part of milk. Teaching you that they believe that they're teaching you meat, and they're not. They're teaching you the air from the Bible. But it goes on more. It says, for precept must be upon precept. Precept upon precept. So it's got to be commandments upon commandments. So this is your instructions on how to understand the Bible. This is what it's actually saying. Line upon line, line upon line. So it means verse upon verse, verse upon verse. This is all it's saying. But this is how you can understand his scriptures. And then it goes on more. It says, here a little and there a little. So you might take a verse from here and it's going to match correctly with the verse over here. So you have to take this verse from Hebrews and put it over here with the verse from Psalms, to where you can get his understanding in God's thought pattern, to where you understand him. This is how you understand this. But he goes on more to explain more to you once you do it based on precepts. And we're going to see that. Let's go over to Psalms. And we're going to look at Psalms. We're going to go to 119. And as I said before, I just went through this. Psalms 119, but we're not going to go to the first place. We're going to go to 4. Psalms 119, we're going to go to 4. We're going to start right there and see exactly what it's saying there. And right there, Psalms 119:4. It says, thou hast commanded us. So he commanded. So it's a commandment. He commanded us to keep thy precepts diligently. So we are to keep them. In the same way that you look at, this is for us to do, precepts must be upon precept. We're commanded to go through these books. This book here, the Holy Bible, we're commanded to go through here diligently and to keep the precepts. And not to sit there to give you a thought of mine. They're saying, well, we're going to tell you what, this is really saying something else. Well, really, we don't have to keep them, but it's just saying it's a good measure to use it somewhat. That where I will be pulling you away from the scriptures, and that's what I don't supposed to be doing. So he said he has commanded us to keep them. And he's going to even tell you, and he's going to tell you why. But he don't say it right there. If you see what I'm doing, I went from Isaiah to find out how to run it, and he told us how to run it. But we got to keep the precepts. We have to use the lines. We have to use some here and some there. Why? Because it tells you right in the because he commanded us to keep the precepts in this order. And let's find out why. Let's go over to 119. We're going to go to 104. And now we're going to find out why we keep it that way. In 104, it tells you, through thy precepts I get understanding. So through the precepts I get understanding of when I run the precepts in his scriptures, I understand what I'm reading. I understand the story or the concept on what he want me to understand on what I need to do to achieve everlasting life by going through his precepts and understanding the book. So I'm reading the book in the order it should be read. That's clear. So we can't sit and just do it any kind of way we want. We have to follow these precepts. And he goes on more to say. And he said, and through that precept I get understanding. Therefore, I hate every false way. This is why you have a lot of your teachers who hold to precepts. When they run into your some of your pastors, it really irritates some of them. And it still irritates me to a great deal, to where they will normally heresize the book. You have the Kate Arthurs out there where they call it precept ministries, but they heresize in the book because they do the same thing relational. I can show you many things to where they show where this goes with that and it don't go with any. And, in the same example is, and I would challenge anybody who is a Sunday school hold to a Sunday church, I challenge you to where you can freely email me. And my email address is elder.mjohnson@kjbu.org. I challenge you to where most people love to go to. I challenged one preacher where he went to John 3:16, which I was glad he went there. And he went to John 3:16, and everybody knows it. For God so loved the world, whoever believes on him will have everlasting life, because he gave his only begotten Son. But, as it says, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, for whoever believes on him will have everlasting life. And he says, so whoever believes, and that's what he honed in on. But you have to be doing something. So I took him right to John 17:9. And Jesus is talking. He said, I pray not for the world, but for them that you've given me, for they are thine. So I asked him, contradict this, because there's no contradiction. But he was stumped, and he wasn't able to contradict it, because for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. But they saying whoever believes, and it's something you have to do based on that belief. But they believe that, but that's why Jesus made the prayer he made. But if you want to uncontradict it, or somebody feel they have an uncontradicting of that based on all you do is believe, please email me. I don't, and same as we do at King James Bible University, we don't accept thought patterns at all. We need direct precepts showing us exactly what you're saying. We don't need what you're saying, we need what the Bible's saying. Because most people will sit there and they'll write us and they'll say, well, this is what I believe, this and that, and just quote a verse. For he loved us all, and and this and that. We need the verses making your statement, because the Bible has no contradiction from Genesis to Revelations. This we all know. So if we all know this, you'll be contradicting the Bible. But for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. And we know, we go to Malachi 3:6, we know the Lord, for I am the Lord, I change not. So he don't change. He don't change from Genesis to Revelations. So we need you to uncontradict that for all those Sundays, all those Sunday people, if that's what you want to do, and do a challenge to us to make sure that you guys are holding to it correctly. But let's go into this everlasting covenant, which they doing, and they running these scriptures, which I'm going to go through this, and we're going to get an understanding on this. And basically, in the Sunday school, they run in the everlasting covenant, which is their heading, and they using Isaiah 61, 1 through 4, and 8 through 11. And this is what they pump in as the everlasting covenant. I'm going to read their introduction. And then I'm going to point out certain parts in here and show you why this is so hairized and why this is incorrect. But in the introduction it says, for some Christians, large part of the Old Testament are unexplored territory, which is completely true. I know New Testament, I know Sunday school, Sunday people won't even touch the Old Testament. If you go to a Gideon or get a Gideon book, they literally just give you New Testament, Psalms, and Proverbs. They completely takes out the rest of the Old Testament. And Jesus refers to the Old Testament over 81 times, stating it is written. Paul, I never really checked on how many times Paul mentioned it, but Jesus mentioned it over 81 times. It is written. And every time he said it is written, he's referring you back to the Old Testament, and there's no possible way for you to get back there if you don't hold to the Old Testament. And then you just holding on to that as a relationship. But you have to remember, nobody walked around with a New Testament. New Testament is basically commentary, or when you really look at it, it's really just a testimony of Christ. So these are the things we have to look at. But to move forward, and said they are familiar with the stories of Adam, which is true, Adam and Eve, Noah, Abraham, Joseph, Moses, David, and other well-known characters. But the poetic books of the prophets are deemed too obscure or too boring to hold their attention. Now, this is the crazy part. Most people don't know. You see Jesus more in the Old Testament than in the New. But just as I said, he's making a true statement here. But the thing is, Jesus is more in the Old than he is in the New. But they're telling you it's too boring because they just want to read the new part, thinking all they have to do is believe. But we're going to get into that. It says, yet without the Old Testament, we deprive ourselves from much spiritual food, for the New Testament is based on the Old, which is all true, but the way that he's kind of devised in this is the spiritual food, that is the food that you need, is the Old Testament. But we're going to get to that too. And then it goes on more. It says, Jesus and the apostles lived in the old context of the Old Testament, teaching indeed the Old Testament was the only scriptures they had, which is what I was just talking about. Then it goes on more. It says, when Paul wrote all scriptures given by inspiration of God is profitable, and they quoting 2 Timothy 3:16, he was speaking of the Old Testament revelation. Now, what it's saying, all scripture is profitable, he was mainly talking about the Old Testament. This is what we have to remember. The New Testament wasn't around, but he's talking about the Old Testament. So, and it says Jesus acted and spoke in a conscious way to that he was fulfilling Old Testament prophecies, which he was. He also affirmed that those he did not fulfill at his first event, he will bring a completion at his return. The epistles of Revelation also drawn heavily on the Old Testament prophecies. And then it gets into this week's passage. In the case in point, Jesus claimed to fulfill part of it, yet much he had left rich truth for fulfillment at the time of his Mosaic reign. Now, we're going to get into some of this, but I want you to look at where, and they have a golden text here, which the golden text is like a verse they hone in on, and I guess it's to highlight the everlasting covenant, and that's because it has the everlasting covenant in there to show you how they allude and run you off on a puppy dog trail, pulling you away to what the everlasting covenant is. And the golden text is Isaiah 61:8. And it tells you right there, it says, I, the Lord, love judgment. I hate robbery for burnt offerings, and I will direct their work in truth, and I will make an everlasting covenant with them. Isaiah 6:8. Now, when he will direct their work in truth, all I want you to do is write down truth. because we're gonna check that, because he's gonna direct their work in truth. And I want to move over to which they're gonna talk about that, and I want to get to their what they're talking about and what they're saying, because now I'm gonna get right where they making a comment on what they saying, what it's saying. It said, it says, and I will direct their work in truth, and it said can be translated. I will faithfully give them their reward. That's what this is saying. I will faithfully give them their reward. And then it goes on more. It says, and the Lord did this in his dealings with Israel, and when they repeatedly unfaithfully to him, he was always faithful in his word, whether it was a promise or a warning of the Mosaic kingdom. This faithful God will fulfill his promises. Now, God will fulfill his promises, but now let's go back to this faithful, this part where he says, I will direct them in their work in all truth. This is part of the problem where they run you around, and it can be translated, and he's telling you actually, to be just really bluntly, he's telling you a bold-faced lie, because he's directing you to another direction. But let's find out, as the Lord said, he's going to direct their work to all truth. Let's find out, because as we do teachings in the King James University, and anybody welcome to go there. And you can go to www.kjbu.org, and you more than welcome. You can go through the classes. They gift classes all the time, so can't afford it, you don't want it, they give you the classes free. You get the full-blown classes that anybody even go there get. So it's no difference. So if you want to go there, please go there. You sign up. A few of the classes that I actually do teach on, but we have many teachers there, and you have many professors there. But I want to direct you to what this truth is, because it's telling you clearly, I will direct their work in truth. So we need to know what truth is. We can stay right with Psalms, and we're going to stop, and we're going to go right to 119, and we're going to start at 142. Psalms 119, 142, because we need to understand what is truth. And one of the things that I do teach, the Bible is its own dictionary. In the Bible is its own commentary. This is why the school, and as well as myself, we stand against any commentary, because there's no commentary you need. Anything you need to understand in the Bible defines itself at all times. It doesn't need for you to go out to get these commentaries, these workbooks, and actually you can look at Ecclesiastes 12 and 12, and it tells you, be admonished for making many books. Why? Because the issue that you have there. Same when you look in Isaiah 43, it tells you that none should accept her mate, because just trust in his book. You don't need a mate to this book. But we're going to look at Psalms 119:42. It says, thy righteousness is an everlasting righteousness, in thy law, and he's getting ready to give you the meaning. It's the truth. Tells you that right there, clear. So now he said he's going to direct their work in all truth. He's going to direct their work in the law. That's all he's saying. So let's move down to 51. It says, thou art near, O Lord, and all thy commandments are true. He's telling you this is what he's going to direct their work in his commandments. That's all this is saying. But he's saying this can be translated in the will for faithfully giving you your reward for what? For doing nothing. We have to understand what the Lord is saying all the time. We have to key in on what he means and not giving you a false understanding. As he's saying, can be translated. If you understand what I just did, I didn't give you a translation. I'm telling you what it is right out of the book. So if you have an issue with that, the issue is not with me. The issue that you have is with God. The issue with him is with him. Because this guy here is telling you it can be translated. And he proceeded to interpret what I will direct their work in truth. He took on the position to where I'm going to tell you what this writer is saying or what he actually meant. We cannot do that. We have to go directly off the precepts, the line upon line, the verse upon verse, some here, some there, to where we can understand what he said. None of us was there. None of these writers, none of those commentary books that you'll get, that you'll see who was there. You know, they'll sit there where he was from the 1800s, he was from the early 1900s, he was from the 1600s. None of them was there to get the understanding. That's just like you can write me a letter, I can write you a letter. I can have different idioms in there to where you can get to understand, but then you can relay it to someone else in this day and time, but then let's project it out just 100 years and let somebody read it. And the idioms have changed. Would they understand what I'm saying or what you're telling me, and based on the letter that they found? It's I give you probably about a 99% chance they're not, especially if you have quite a bit of idioms in there, which the Bible actually possesses. Many idioms, and as it's telling you in here, the truth are the commandments of God, and that's why Jesus, you hear, he came with, when you can actually go to John, and this is part of why they heresize it. Let's go to John. We're going to look at John 1. We're going to go right to 1. And we're going to look at John 1. And we're going to look at 17. Look at that verse right there. It says, for the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. So he came with grace, giving you time to get it right. But it's still coupled with truth. The commandments of God, which you have the meaning from Psalms. So if you have these two still there, he still mean the same thing. He's still not letting you get away without holding on to the commandments. As you see John tell you over there in 1 John. He gives you no new commandment, but this was from the beginning. And this is the dangerous part. We'll go over to Revelations, and then we'll go right back to where we left off. Let's go to Revelation. We're going to go to the last chapter in the book. Last chapter. The exact last chapter of the book. And we're going to go right to 14. And we're going to clear this. It says, blessed are they that do his commandments. But they'll tell you his commandments is done away with. But right here it says, blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have a right to the tree of life. So they that do the commandments have a right to the tree of life. It don't say nothing. They that believe have a right to it. They that do his commandments. Because if you believe in the Lord, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and the works that he did, and you believe on him, and you follow him, and what he told you, if you love me, do my commandment. If you do these, this is talking about you. You have a right to the tree of life, not the other ones. That and may enter through the gates of the city. That's what this is talking about. But let's move a little bit more. It says, for without doing his commandments. The ones who think all they have to do is believe. This is him talking, because he's going to clarify it. So some people would get mad, and some people used to get mad when I actually used to teach this in some churches, and they get mad because they think it's me, but it's not me. You're reading it out of your own book. But it says, for without are dogs, sorcerers, whoremongers, murderers, and idolaters, and whosoever loveth maketh a lie. But who's saying this? I, Jesus. The next verse. Sent my angels to testify unto you these things in the churches. He's telling you He sent his angels to testify to you this stuff. But what we want to do, we want to sit there and think all you have to do is believe. But he's telling you right there, doing his commandments. But this is what people, and what they saying, the everlasting covenant on what this is saying. So he translated this himself to what he wants. Because if you look, once you go through this Sunday school teaching that they have in this Expositor, this is what they're doing. They're pumping you everything else but what the Bible tells you to do. And let's go down to another piece that I highlighted in here that they sent. And it says, when the Messiah establishes his kingdom, we will undergird the promises of two covenants with a new everlasting covenant. And he refers back to Isaiah 61 and 8. And then he goes on to 53 and 5. 55 and 3, and let's look at 55 and 3 to see what it actually says there. 55 and 3. We're going to see Isaiah 55 and 3, and let's see what it says right there. It says, incline their ear and come unto me, and hear, and your soul shall live, and I will make an everlasting covenant with you, even the sure mercies of David. Okay, it's saying it's going to make an everlasting covenant, but it's not saying what the covenant is. This is the part. But then it even gets more. It says this will be based on the remaining work of Christ, which is putting all the responsibility on Christ himself. And it removes you from the responsibility. And it says having transforming the power that the law never had. So it goes on to Jeremiah 31:34, which we're going to get into, and it said it will bring the fruition of the Lord previous commandments of Ezekiel 16:60, which is all alluding you to confusion and falsities on how he's actually transferring and interpreting the Bible, because all the words in the Bible is true. So let's get that clear understanding. It's the way that he's trying to translate it to you is giving you a false understanding. This is what they're doing. Because we're going to look at Hebrews 13 and 20. We're going to look at Hebrews 13 and 20. And we're going to see what Hebrews 13 and 20 actually says to just show you exactly what they love doing, and if they can continue to keep you mixed up. And this is why most people, I tell you, if you go to these Sunday churches, this is what they like to do. And we're gonna look at Hebrews 13. We said 13 and 20, I believe it was. Yeah, 13 and 20. We're gonna go to Hebrews 13 and 20. It says, now that God of peace, that brought again from the dead our Lord Jesus, that great shepherd of sheep, through the blood of the everlasting covenant. So what they're doing, they're honing in on everlasting covenant, but it's not telling you exactly what it's saying. But we're going to look at that to break up some of this heresy here. Let's stay in 13. We're going to stay right there in 13. But let's look at a few things here. We're going to go 13 and 20, but we're going to go up and let's go over to, let's start down at close to bodies. We're going to look down at a few of them. You see, let's start at 4 to get the understanding. Or we could just go, let's start at 1. We'll just go through. It says, let brotherly love continue. Let me make sure that was the same. Yeah, starting right there. Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares. So he's letting you know. So you could be entertaining angels unawares. Remember them that are in bonds. So remember them that are in sin, as the bond with them, in them that suffer adversity, as being yourselves as in the body. So some people is under the bond under sin. So he's telling you to remember that they're under the bond. So we have to be mind conscious of that. But here's the key. It says marriage is honorable. So the same marriage, which I'm going to show you the marriage that we made with him. In all, in the bed undefiled, but whoremongers and adulterers God will judge. Now, what is whoremongers? Whoremongers is idolaters, is chasing after false gods. This is what this talking. That's why I'm saying the marriage is honorable. So if the marriage is honorable, this is why the bed is undefiled, because you're not going to go out a whoring after other gods. This is all it's saying. But you see how he lifted this out based on a covenant, and all you have to do is believe. And I'm going to show you that's all he's actually talking about in here when we get to it. But we're gonna see. I want to just get this set. But we want to see exactly what this is saying here, because we've seen that this marriage is honorable. But let's see what this marriage is. Let's go to the marriage and find out what this everlasting covenant is all about. Let's go over to Genesis. We have to find out where it started. We're going to go to Genesis 17 and 19. Genesis 17 and 19. We're going to see what started this everlasting covenant, because this is some things that they don't touch on, and he's not going to touch on it because they want to move you away from the commandments, because they know people in these Sunday churches, they don't want to abide by them, and they can lose money by doing that, because people want to hear smooth things, which is in the teaching within itself. But let's go to 17:19. It said, and God said, Sarah, thy wife shall bear a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant in with his seed after him. This is what he was doing. So we need to move more where it started. Now we're going to move over to Exodus, and we're going to see where the Lord asked us to marry him, and where we said I do. And this is where the covenant started. And then anybody who say I do and go under the blood of Jesus, you fall under that covenant. And what we have to remember is, in his covenant is no such thing as divorce. So that's why I say, if you know what is good and then you walk away from it, it would have been better if you would have never known at all, because now you know. So that's something you always keep in mind. But let's go to Exodus. We're going to look at 19 and 38. 19 and 38. And actually, I think I have that wrong. Let me make sure. Let me make sure that was the correct one. No, 19:3. I'm sorry. 19:3. And we're going to go down to 8. I'm sorry. Actually, I have my notes kind of written a little bit different, because somebody just sent in and they wanted a response today and they needed it today. But we're going to go to Exodus 19. We're going to start at 3. It says, and Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, thus sayest thou, say to the house of Jacob. So we got to understand the house of Jacob, he talking to all the Israelites. And tell the children of Israel, so now he's clarifying the children of Israel, that ye have seen what I did and unto the Egyptian, and how I bared you on the eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. Therefore, here is the asking of marriage. But we have to do something. if ye will obey my voice indeed. That's what he's telling you. And keep my covenant. What is his covenant? His commandments. Then ye shall be a particular treasure unto me above all people, and for all the earth is mine. So he's making that clear. So this, if we sit there and we keep his covenant, we'll be a particular people, a peculiar people, and a treasure above all people. Because we're going under his covenant. Most people are not going to go under it. But if you're going to go under his covenant, it's not just saying, oh, I believe I take the Lord to be my Lord and Savior, and you go up there and that's wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, I'm done. As long as I believe, I'm covered in the blood. That's not true. You have to do something. And this is the start of it right here. And we're going to go more down into it. And it says, and ye shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which I spake unto the children of Israel. And Moses came and called for the elders of the people and laid before their faces all the words which the Lord commanded him. And watch what happened. And all the people answered together. All the people answered and said, all that the Lord hath spoken, we will do. I do. That was the main thing. He went, he proposed, all that the Lord has spoken, I will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord. So that was the beginning of everything. But the laws, the statute and commandments was being taught verbatim by words, by the elders. Now, that was the original covenant that was set up. But he had to change this. And where he did the change, did he change his law, statute, law, and commandment? No. He just changed the ordinance on how it was going to be given out. Now they refer and they put all the pressure back on Jesus, but he put it on you. But let's go here. Now we're going to go to Jeremiah. And we're going to find out what he's doing new. We're going to look at Jeremiah, and we're going to go to Jeremiah 31 and 33. And if you have this expositor, you'll see it's referencing in that, but it's transforming the power of the law never had. But we're going to see they still putting it all, redeeming the work of Christ. They're putting it all on Jesus. So we're going to look at 31, and we're going to go to 31, and we're going to start at 31. It says, behold, in the days shall come, shall the Lord, I will make a new covenant. Understand what that just said. I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers, but in that day I took them by the hand and bring them out of the land of Egypt, which is the house of bondage. If you reference Exodus 20 and 2, that'll give you the definition of Egypt and why he mentions Egypt in that. It's the house of bondage. You was bonded under sin. And it says, which my covenant they break. So they broke that covenant, though I was a husband unto them, which that's why when you're a husband, you shouldn't be defiling the bed. You should always be worshiping him. And what he's been saying the entire time, because what it tells you in Hebrews, and what I showed you in Hebrews in 4, where it talks about you're not to defile the bed. Marriage is good, but you don't defile the bed. Going whoring after other idol gods. But he said, but I was a husband to them, said the Lord. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel. After those days, saith the Lord, I will put my law. Understand what that said? I will put my law in the inward parts and write it in their hearts. And I will be their God, and they shall be my people. This is the new covenant, the everlasting covenant. Now, and if you go down and read, so it tells you even more. And they shall no more teach every man in his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord. That's what they was getting rid of. To where you don't have to do that, because why? He was writing it upon the tablets of every man's heart now. To where you're going to be knowing right from wrong, but then you're going to have a guidance to where you want to learn more truth. And once you come to that, how people say, this is my soulmate. Once you come to this truth and you see this truth and it hits you, it's going to make an automatic, this is what I've been missing. This is what I've been longing for. This is what I've been missing all the time. Then you come to his word and you get the understanding, and then that marriage end up materializing even more and manifesting itself even more. That's what this is actually talking about. But let's move on. We got some more. We got to go over to 32, and we're gonna look at 39, because they just hit 40, and I'm gonna show you why they do that. But you have to start at 39 and see. But to show you how they doing it, they hitting 32 and 40, and 40 just says, I will make an everlasting covenant with them, and I will not turn away from them to do them good, but I will put my fear in their heart, that they shall not depart from me. Let's go up to 39 and read the verse before. It says, I will give them one heart and one way. That's his law. That they may fear me and fear me forever, for the good of them and of their children after them. So now he's making that everlasting covenant. But it goes on more. Let's go back to Psalms 105. We're going to look at Psalms 105, and we're going to look at Psalms 105. We're going to look at 6. And we're going to go to Psalms 105. We're going to start at 6. We're going to end up ending it at 10. It says, Ye O seed of Abraham, his servant, ye children of Jacob, he's chosen. He is the Lord our God. His judgments are in all the earth. He hath remembered his covenant forever, for the word which he commanded to the 1,000 generations, which covenant he had made with Abraham in his oath unto Isaac, and confirmed the same unto Jacob for a law, which you talking about his commandments, in Israel for an everlasting covenant. That's what this is mainly talking about. But what did they do on these covenants? They was breaking them. And as they broke them, we're going to go right back, and we're going to look at Isaiah. We're going to look at Isaiah 24. We're going to pick it up at 5. Isaiah 24, and we're going to pick it up at 5. So, picking it up there, it says, for all the earth is defiled under the inhabitants, so all the people in all the cities. So therefore, because they have transgressed the law and changed the ordinances and broken the everlasting covenant. So this is what they did. And broken the everlasting covenant. How did they break it? They're not doing the statute, laws, and commandments. That's all. They're not doing that. So if they're not doing it, but they saying all you have to do is believe, because Jesus paid it all. Jesus came to obey the law, not to get rid of it. And actually, to settle some of that, let's go over here to Matthew 5. We're going to go to Matthew 5, and just going off turn for a minute, but we're going to go to 5, and we're going to stop right there. We're going to go to 5 and 17. We just have to stop right here just to show you that he didn't come to change nothing. He came to obey, and he came to fulfill what was what the prophets wrote and what you read in the Psalms. This is what he came to do. We're going to look at 5 and 17. It says, think not, and Jesus is talking, think not that I have come to destroy the law. Think not that I came to destroy the law. We need to understand, he didn't come to destroy the law. or the prophets, or nothing that the prophets wrote. He didn't come to destroy what Moses wrote or what the prophets wrote, is what he's saying. He didn't come to destroy none of this. He came not to do any of these things which you will hear a preacher or a pastor sit there and tell you. Jesus himself is telling you this. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. What he came to fulfill? These prophecies that you see that was written in the law. Moses said a greater prophet gonna come better than him. But he said, but you better listen to him. Because he's coming, he's not playing them. And he said he come to fulfill. He just came to obey what was written of him in the law and of the prophet. Because he tell you, search the scripture. They would testify of him. Let's move down. So he moved down to 18. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, it's still here. People are still dying, crying, sick, pestilence, you name it, it's still going on. He says, so until heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall no wise pass from the law. So until heaven and earth pass, nothing leaving the law. Nothing. This is what he's telling you. But they tell you, well, he came and he done fulfilled all things. No, he say, until heaven and earth pass, nothing is going to pass from the law. Nothing. So if nothing going to pass from the law, we need to obey this. So now, and he gets on more. And there say nothing should pass from the law till all be fulfilled, until everything is fulfilled. But he goes on more. He's still talking. Whosoever therefore shall break one of the least commandments. Now he's telling you something. If you break one of the least commandments and shall teach men so now he's getting on these preachers, teachers, and everybody else. And you teach men to break them, well, they all fulfill. We can't keep the commandments. If you can't keep the commandment, shouldn't covet. Can't love your brother. You don't have to love your Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, soul, and strength. So you don't have to keep those. See this is what it's saying. He said the two greatest commandments, to love your Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love your neighbor as you love thyself. If you can't do those two things in what he's saying, because that's mainly the whole thing. And you have preachers saying you don't have to keep those. All you have to do is believe. Believe what? They nullified the law. But he's saying, but you don't teach men to do so. What's going to happen? He shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. That means you're not going to heaven. You're going to be called the least. You're going to hit the lake of fire. And the ones who following and believing you is going right along with you. Same as Satan. Satan sat there. Most people think Satan going to be down there. He got a job down there where he's going to be running hell. Satan, hell was made for Satan, but guess what? He had to enlarge it to put some of the people there, because some of us, with our own lust, we want to follow that doctrine or that teaching. Now, watch this part. It says, but whosoever shall do and teach them. So the ones who do and teach what? The commandments that you need to follow. The same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. What part are we missing? This is what he's telling you. So when he's teaching this is what he's saying. But let's move a little bit. We're gonna move a little bit more. And he gets into more where you talk about he calls his righteousness to praise and spring forth all the nations. Righteousness has already been a generous gift in verse 10. So if you look at Isaiah 61 and 10, he says it's already been in part. There's already been a gift already given. So basically telling you don't have to do anything. So we look at 61 and 10, it says, I will greatly rejoice in the Lord, for my soul shall be joyful in my God, for he hath clothed me with the garments of salvation. He hath covered me with the robe of righteousness, as a bridegroom decked himself in ornaments, and as a bride adorned herself with her jewels. Now, these things is just, the way he wrote this is just talking about all you have to do is believe. And that's not true. It's just like I showed you in the last chapter, you have to be doing something. But it says, bring forth praise to those who receive the faithfulness and bestowing and become a testimony before all nations. The whole world has an opportunity to see his salvation. Now, the part that you completely always see missing here is that you never had to obey no commandment. That's the whole part we keep missing here. This is the problem, because throughout the entire book, how did Adam then fall? Why? He didn't do the commandment of God. How did Israel fall? Not obeying the commandments of God. How we fallen? Not obeying the commandments of God. So it's all running hand in hand. He failed to do it. Israel failed to do it. We teaching is done away with, and you don't have to do it. We have to watch what we're doing, folks. And now he even gets down more into where he talks about it in Isaiah 61:11, states a universal truth that is evident. Let's see what he says here. That is evident in our day. The gospel of God's salvation is sown in the hearts. So the gospel of God is salvation is sown in the hearts of men, and the fruitation becomes a testimony as it redeems, praises him for it. Now, what is sown in the heart? I just showed you in Jeremiah 31:34. His law. The fruitation is every time when you get fruit, and most people think fruit is everything else. Fruit is the commandments of God. The more you hold to him, the more fruit that he can harvest from it, because you're obeying him. That's all that's saying. But he's telling you it's sown in the heart just to believe. And it goes on more. And then you praise him for it. But the context of this prophecy gives you more pricefully fulfillment, though it redeemed Israel in the millennium. Chapter 62 continue the same theme, as it is Zion in Jerusalem that will bear the witness of God's grace before the Gentile. This is all what they like to sit there and mix people up and talking about nothing. This is all just rhetoric. And then it gets in the last piece. It says, in his sovereignty, God has manifested his goodness to all who trust him. This manifestation spans all generations. It will reach its final fulfillment under the Messiah's rule. And this was by Robert E. Wenger. Truly teaching you how to err in the Bible. Because they teaching grace, when the Lord came with grace and truth, which I showed you what truth is, gave you the meaning of truth. And I'm going to leave you with this. Let's go over to Daniel. We're going to look at Daniel 12 and 2. And Jesus even tell you about Daniel. He said you better read Daniel, you better understand it. So we're going to go to Daniel 12 and 2, because you need to understand Daniel. And we're going to see Daniel 12 and 2. Daniel 12 and 2, it says, and many of them that sleep in the dust. So the many that already had passed, that died on, is what this is saying. And they shall awake. So just as it says, see, some going to be already asleep in death, or they already in the grave, and there are going to be many that are living when he returns. So it's going to be both ways. And now you're going to say, some to everlasting life. So some of them that are right now that are asleep, they're going to wake to everlasting life. And some to shame and everlasting contempt, with some going directly to hell. So if we're not doing anything, and all you believe is all you have to do is believe, I'm telling you, go through the scriptures very carefully. Nowhere in there you will ever find the commandments is ran more in the new than you even see in the old. The Lord tells you many times, if you love me, keep my commandments. This is how you know you have the love of God. By what? Keeping his commandments. This is all through the scriptures. But you have them that teaching you don't have to do them. This is Old Testament stuff. And if you ever just look at, you can go all through here and show you something else that I always, I show a lot of my people I teach. I'll hold that up. This is the New Testament. This is the Old. Look how thin this is. This is what all you throwing away. Why would you throw that away? Why would you let a man teach you a lie and your life depends on it? You have many who are going to put their trust in a commentary, then sitting there and having someone teaching you God's truth. Everything I showed you in the Bible. You might see me comment, say something here or there, but everything that I showed you has come from the Bible. Hopefully you wrote down the scripture, you go back and you can check them. We don't sit there, we hold to no commentaries. Why? Because he gives you instructions out of the Bible on how to understand his book. Isaiah 28, 9 and 10, Psalms 119:4, also Psalms 119:104. This is how you understand his book. Don't let people fool you. For we have to remember, your salvation depends on it. If you decide to where you want to go and you want to continue to run to these Sunday churches, that's on you. Because you have clearly hear the truth. We're not the only ones running this. Many other places run the same truth. But if you decide, because you want to run with the crowd that's running on Sunday, please believe that you run into the wrong place. As the Lord said, man gonna change the days, the laws, days and times. And that's what they done. And once they did that, they was able to pump you that Jesus got up on Sunday. All you have to do is go right to Genesis. And he said that from evening to evening was the first day. So if evening to evening, which is 6 o'clock to 6 o'clock, is one day. And we have changed it to 12 a.m. to 12 a.m. is the next day. So if that's true, when Mary Magdalene and them showed up at the sepulchre at the dawning of the first day was already started almost 12 hours beforehand. Because it started at 6 p.m. the next day. Then it got dark. Then it was 6. Then it was 12 a.m. Then it was dawning towards the next day. So he had all that Sabbath day to get up. As he said, understand Daniel. Daniel tells you he was cut off in the midst of the week. What is the midst of the week? It's in the middle of the week. What is the middle of the week? The middle of the week is Wednesday. And then Daniel tells you clearly, the Messiah will be cut off in the midst of the week. Not on Friday. But they tell you that he died on Friday. You have all these churches teaching that. You'll see many churches when you get to Easter, they have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and he got up. But he said, I'm going to spend 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the earth. The same as the sign in Jonah. So how you getting 3 days and 3 nights, and they say he died on Friday, and you see it went into the evening, and he died on Friday. So you got Friday night, Saturday night, and he got up on Sunday. Where's the third night? It's not even there. You don't even have 3 days there. You only really have 1.5. That's it. But just as I keep telling people, the Bible teaches you of 2 Jesus. Make sure you're not going after the wrong one. If you're on there on Sunday, you're going after the wrong Jesus. That Jesus, all things are done. All you have to do is believe on him. You can eat whatever you want to eat. You can celebrate whatever you want to celebrate. You can do whatever you want to do. All you have to do is believe. That's a false Jesus. Same as what you see, the false Jesus, he tells you even at the beginning. All you have to do is fall down and worship me. Who did he tell that to? He told that to Jesus. You don't have to do nothing. Just worship me. Satan told that to Jesus. Satan telling that to you. All you have to do is believe. Worship me. That's it. And if that's what you believe, may the Lord just have mercy on your soul, because you're truly being deceived. And we don't want these things to be deceived, because they pulled you completely away from the truth. They're not hitting no part in here that'll help you and edify you to move towards God's truth. His truth is his commandments. If you want to continue to stay in the Sunday church for, you like whatever there, and the praises and this and that, praising God is sitting there doing the studies. You studying his book. You doing these things. Not sitting there just, I like this song, I like that song, I like this person, I see them there. No. You there to study his word. So I wish you was richly edified. I hope you continue. But especially for the people who's on the Sabbath, because Sabbath is coming. It'll be here this evening. So, but I just want to show many people who do these Sunday things that this book, that this Bible Expositor, Illuminator, this book is very dangerous. And they teaching you a false truth. So I hope that you was richly edified, that you go through there, check with any pastor, teacher, anybody. I'm more than open. I will sit with them. My email, I told you again, is elder.mjohnson@kjbu.org. You're more than welcome to call. You're more than welcome to email me. We can set up meetings. We can sit there. But as I said, we hold to no commentary. Commentary, you have to be pulling right out of here. If you're not pulling it out of there, it's basically mute, because the Bible told us how to run it. And you're not to be sitting there to run out of other books. And actually, let's leave you with that last one, just in case people think it's not there, because I done quoted it a few times, but I didn't take nobody there. So let's take them there so you can see what I'm saying. We're going to go to Ecclesiastes 12:12, and we're going to see what this is saying. Ecclesiastes 12:12. It says, "And further, by these, my son, be admonished, for making many books there is no end." That's what they're doing. You can go to any Christian bookstore. Books comes out weekly, daily. What they doing? Making many books. There is no end. They telling you how to love God, and God telling you how to love him in his own book. But they going to tell you how to love him, and he's telling you how to love him. I don't get that. If I'm telling you this is what I like, and this is how I want, and I think you'll be doing me this just if you do this, I don't need somebody else, somewhere else, saying, "Well, I'll tell you what, you do this, this is what he wants." I'm telling you. And he said what? "For much study is a weariness to the flesh." And 13 clears it again. "Let us hear the whole conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of men. It's clear as day. Every time you go through his word, it's clear. But we always like to run somewhere else. So with that, I wish you was richly edified. And until next time, I wish each and every one a happy Sabbath and a shalom.